Good morning. One of the things that we wanted to talk about this morning was the governor's desire to constantly say one thing and do just the opposite. For example, in relation to schools, he made very clear publicly that in fact he was not going to cut schools, and then he proposed a budget that would cut the Proposition 98 guarantee to schools by $2.4 billion. At the same time, in order to achieve that, he proposes eliminating the gas tax, which helps fund schools, and then changing that to a fuel excise tax, which does not fund the schools. In the process, the schools lose essentially $900 million in this fiscal year, 2009-10. That's more money than the California could get over 4 years in the race to the top funding. The race to the top funding at maximum is $700 million over 4 years. And the governor has, in one fell swoop, decided to cut schools by $900 million in this year. Not over 4 years, but this year. That's an example, once again, of the governor saying he's going to protect schools, and with the other hand, cutting schools, in this case by $2.4 billion over this year and next year. Another example is the prison higher ed proposal. On the one hand, he says he wants to have a constitutional amendment to guarantee that higher education will have more money than the prisons, and we support that. But how does he do it? Well, he takes the efforts by students and their families to fight the cuts in UC and Cal State. He uses that to try to privatize the prisons, and that's where he's going to save the money, by denying working Californians of their wages and their benefits. Another example of the governor taking one opportunity and then using it to do something else. And of course that also includes his new drive to increase oil drilling off the Santa Barbara coast, an environmental disaster in waiting. So the governor talks about how interested he is in the environment, and then on the other hand wants to allow oil drilling. So he takes every opportunity to take the disaster of fiscal problems in California and turn them into advantage for his long desired plans. I don't know if it's coincidental or not, but the private prison industry has provided at least $100,000 to the governor in his campaign last May to change California policy, which the voters clearly rejected, as they have rejected many of his proposals over time. So he uses the opportunity to attack teachers by changing the seniority system in California in order that principals can arbitrarily get rid of teachers they don't like or who they're paying too high salaries to in order to cut their costs. Again, one of his pet pet desires, using the fiscal crisis to do something that has nothing at all to do with the fiscal crisis. Once again, trying to push through his own policies, as he's done with Race to the Top. Many of the proposals in Senator Romero's bill recently passed have nothing to do with Race to the Top, but rather a desire, once again, to punish teachers and punish the schools and turn them over to charter schools and other private interests. So that's our take basically on the governor's budget. It's a despicable budget. It takes the children that we serve, denies them health care, healthy families. He wants to cut healthy families. That affects 874,762 children. He wants to cut that. He wants to cut CalWORKS, which helps our students in community colleges continue to be educated. And he even wants to attack the elder elderly in our state by denying them in-home supportive services that would allow them to stay at home instead of being put in some kind of a group home. So in other words, the governor is intent on destroying California life. The second thing we wanted to mention today is that we will not be signing on to California's Race to the Top proposal. Basic reason is that, first of all, there is no proposal. I don't know how districts are able to sign on with an MOU on something that they haven't yet seen. What they're doing is, I guess, hoping for the best. But of course, they have the opportunity, districts have the opportunity until the money comes in to drop their signatures. And when they realize that the money they receive will not equal the cost of the program, and when they see the kind of cuts that the governor is proposing and hopefully the legislature doesn't pass, that they will then see that the Race to the Top proposal is not in their interest, and they will back out of their support. But in any case, the California Federation of Teachers Executive Council last weekend voted not to sign on. But of course, we are a federation of locals, and any of our locals are free to sign on if they wish, if they can get the kind of a cooperation and agreement from their district's management in order to make it a reasonable plan, including the kind of collective bargaining protections that they need. And finally, let me mention that we are going to, on March 5th, begin a march to Sacramento, a fight for California's future. We're going to be taking up to 40 days to march across California from Bakersfield to Sacramento with a variety of organizations in cooperation, holding rallies across the Central Valley and putting forward our ideas about how California can wither this bad economy and actually thrive in the future and become what California once was, a state that people all over the world would love to live in. So with that, I'll answer any questions that people have.
And operator, if you would open it up now, we'll take questions in the room, and then we would entertain some questions from the media on the phone.
If you would like to ask a question via the phone lines, please press 1 followed by 4 on your touch-tone phone at this time. Once again, that was 1 followed by 4 on your touch-tone phone at this time.
Well, what do you think the governor should be proposing? I mean, to balance the budget, should you not cut schools in any way? And if so, where else do you cut $2.4 billion out of the budget?
Well, first of all, he should look at raising the proper revenue that we need. And there's a variety of ways to raise the necessary revenue without at all impacting the lives of most Californians. And we have a list of those tax increases, revenue enhancements available. They include, say, Chirico's oil severance, which is, I guess, in hearing today, or passed yesterday, I guess, in hearing. There's a variety of others, bringing the higher income brackets back to the 11% that they once were, up from, I think it's 9.3% now. Closing corporate loopholes, oil severance tax I mentioned. There's a variety of things, and we have a list I think we made available to you of the kinds of tax increases that we're suggesting that would not in any way hurt the poor or the working middle class, but would in fact have those pay for the state projects and infrastructure and schools that they benefit from. It's what brings people to California. What's once brought people to California was our great universities, our great colleges, and our great educational system. Now that we've basically defunded education, we're now probably 48th, 49th in the country in per student funding for high school, for K-12. We're probably at the same rate in the community colleges, and our UCs and Cal States are certainly suffering, and the fees are getting to the point where it's going to be driving away middle-class students who would like to have that opportunity. So we think that the first approach should be to try to find the revenue necessary and then start looking at how you can find places in the state budget to keep steady and not increase. I don't see how you can cut anything at this point. Everything is bare bones.